Up next, we have another thought leadership spotlight. This one's called From Nice to Have to Must Have Culture and Recognition Tips for 2023 with help from Coach Ted Lasso. So all of you who are a little sad and sentimental that show wrapped up its third season, this is a wonderful way to revisit. So the question is, how is employee experience changing in the current environment? In this session, we'll take a close look, then explore how companies are navigating flexible work and creating a sense of recognition and belonging. This is critical to creating a healthy work environment, yet there's a disconnect between what managers think they're doing and what workers perceive. This isn't necessarily easy, but as Ted says, quote, "A challenge is a lot like riding a horse, isn't it? If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong." Channeling Ted Lasso to lead this discussion is Matthew Willis. He is the Senior Vice President of North America at Advantage Club. Matthew, take it away, and please welcome Matthew to the stage.
Thanks, Steve. All right. Can you hear me okay back there? Great. We're going to start off with just quick. We were in Chicago a couple months ago, and the CHRO of CB Richard Ellis, one of the largest real estate companies in the world, was asked, hey, has productivity changed pre-pandemic, post-pandemic? And she gave a bunch of statistics and said, ultimately, not that much. It's about 70% US workforce productivity pre-pandemic, and then post-pandemic, we're at about 69 or 70%. But she said the kicker was do the same thing with employee well-being. And pre-pandemic, a lot of different charts, stats, et cetera, 68 to 70%, that's where we're at. So most people were, not ecstatic about working, but 70%. Post-pandemic, we fell off a cliff. We're at 38%. So how do we address this human connection in this crazy hybrid world with a really tight job market? So today, we're going to just go through some practical tips of what we're seeing out in the marketplace, and I'm going to provide you with some trends, and this has changed in the last 3-6 months, right? So you can take back, happy to provide these slides for you and your organization on what's going on when we talk about engagement and recognition and experience. All right? Time today, first part is the trends, second part is tips, and really we see 4 buckets. Buy-in, identity, how we identify things, how we enlarge opportunities for engagement and recognition, and then creating that feedback loop. So that's what we're going to talk about. This is going to be interactive. We have a little help from Ted Lasso. It's interactive, meaning just raising your hands. And we raise our hands not only because it'll keep you awake at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but also it will show you who else, like-size organizations, are doing something similar, right? Or not doing something similar, right? So that's the idea behind this. So we're going to keep it light. All right. Summarizing lots and lots of hours, right, that we've all been through. Pre-pandemic, we already had in the US and North America workforce a trend towards this idea of, hey, it's not just about the paycheck anymore, right? I want something more. So the workforce was telling us, I want culture. I want something purpose-driven. I want some development. I want that belonging and appreciation. That was pre-pandemic. Along comes the pandemic, what happens? Everything goes upside down, right? So we have the Great Resignation, extremely tight job market coming out of the pandemic, hybrid workplace, silent quitting. You've heard all these buzzwords, right? The disengagement. HR technology, real quick show of hands, how many people in your organization have either purchased or implemented or changed your HR technology in the last 24 months? Just quick show of hands. Okay, 70, 80%, right? Why? Well, I'll tell you why, is because at the CEO level, at the board level, people matter a lot more than they did pre-pandemic. All of a sudden, we're feeling that pain in the numbers. We're feeling that pain on the revenue side, and the catalyst for change is there. We were at a conference not too long ago. This is HR Tech, I think 2 years ago. They said, hey, for 25 years, Little or no innovation in HR technology. 25 years. Then we have a pandemic, and the largest industry for venture capital, HR technology. So why? Now is the time. It's needed. Then what do we have? Well, recently, especially here in the Bay Area, we felt it, right? You've got layoffs and you've got this recession. So all of a sudden, hey, we absolutely need to do something about retention. We absolutely need some recognition. But let's hold on a second. We're not sure what third quarter, fourth quarter is going to bring. So we've got all these competing factors going on today. What is it today? The reason it is titled crisis is because it is a crisis. What does that mean? If you've got 32% of the workforce that are engaged, that's a huge problem. And this is not an Advantage Club stat. This is Gallup, this is Microsoft, Deloitte, Towers parent, right? We know that most people, for multiple reasons, it's hybrid, tight job market, great resignation, you're not engaged. So what happens? We also have this real tight job market, especially on the front line, right? So if you've got hourly employees, 33% are leaving jobs within 90 days. So it is a revolving turnstile. Then you've got this idea of, well, what happens with disengagement? Well, low productivity, we understand that. But also, hiring is really difficult, okay? So depending on your industry, depending on the size of your company, et cetera, you're going to feel this pain more, but it's a crisis. And all of you are going to say, just real quickly, how many of you recognize your employees in your organization? In some form or fashion, how many recognize employees? Okay, that's most everyone's hand, right? And that's true. 90% of businesses indicate, hey, we recognize our employees, of course. But if you ask the same employees, what are they going to say? Well, 40% are going to say, I haven't been recognized, or I haven't adequately been recognized. 65% say they didn't receive any recognition. So whatever we're tracking, right, or whatever satisfaction surveys we're throwing out there, we got to question those, right? And then you got this whole question of hybrid. Work from home, workplace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It throws everything into a loop. All right, so there's Ted Lasso, 2 buttons I never hit, panic, snooze. So what's the answer? Well, what we're seeing is this kind of buckets in creating a recognition culture. And recognition means sense of belonging, recognition, achievement, appreciation, all of the above. First is buy-in, then identification, then expansion, then we have this feedback loop. Okay, what's buy-in mean? Buy-in, I don't know how many times, what we do at Advantage Club, we are 3.4 million users. We're in 120 companies. Most of you have never heard of us because we're white labeled. So we're underneath very, very big consulting firms, retail firms, hospitality, transportation. We do their rewards and recognition. That's what we do. So we have real good stats. But what we're getting to is, hey, when we plug in our little app, our little platform, what are we going to track? And what we've seen is a big shift. All of a sudden, we're tracking things like employee net promoter score. How your employees are telling other people, are they going to refer them to the company? That's new. We're tracking turnover. We're tracking absenteeism. But how about retention? How do you track plugging in this little platform to retention? That's what we're spending time on. So the first thing we need to do is, hey, what is the board? What is that executive suite tracking? How can we measure that? That's where it goes back from. So we get that buy-in. Then we talk about employee needs. We just had a great panel, right? And one of the themes flowing through this wellness panel is, hey, we've taken surveys, all right? How many people do employee engagement surveys? Employee satisfaction surveys, okay? How many people have changed how they're doing surveys or have changed the survey in the last 24 months? Show of hands. Okay, about a third to a fourth. What we're seeing is better engagement survey questions, drilling down, asking more questions, more frequent surveys, and doing pulse checks. So formally, we're trying to get more information on what are the needs of our employees. But what we've really seen is a big boom in that informal assessment. And what is informal assessment? Okay, so this is the idea. Hey, we all have, most of us, we've grown up with, hey, we have quarterly or annually or semi-annual performance appraisals, meeting with your boss. We've seen that expand. So it expands to what lots of companies are doing is spending time one-on-one with your employees. And the one-on-one isn't simply, hey, here's your numbers, here's how you're doing, a 4 out of 5, do you need anything great? We'll see in the next 3 months. Now we're seeing intent to having longer connection time. That one-on-one is now 45 minutes instead of a half hour. And what's 15 minutes? Hey, how are you doing? How's it going? How's your family? And that seems really, really fundamental to everyone in this room, right? But it's not. And it takes some training for the leaders and the managers, et cetera. It's not just about the numbers, because we know that time spent, we may elicit some trust. We may get some good feedback in that informal time. If not the one-on-one time, we're seeing specific developmental time. So once a week, once a month. Hey, we're going to meet for a half hour. It's going to be a one-on-one. We're not going to talk about work. We just want to talk about development. How are you doing? Where do we want to be? So we're seeing more of that develop. The other thing we're seeing is on Zoom. Tip and trick, we had COO of Luminary Media, and she said, hey, every Zoom call I show up 5 minutes late. Why 5 minutes late? Because all the employees are remote, and they never get to chat with one another, right? So this intention of creating some connection. And where does that get? That gets into some more communication in terms of what people need. And then, of course, we have a lot of employee resource groups. How many people have heard of ERGs or use employee resource groups today? Just show of hands. Wow. Okay, how many people had ERGs 5 years ago? A lot less. The idea behind the employee resource group is, hey, employee-led, let's take a topic that's fundamental from what people want, diversity, development, et cetera. Let's take those employee resource groups. What we're seeing is beyond the formal resource group, beyond diversity, let's take people that like to cook. Hey, let's connect those folks. Doesn't matter if you're working in the warehouse or sales or HR, there's a little group there. Let's connect them through technology. Let's create a little committee. And they can post some of the stuff they cook. Or they went to a great restaurant. Okay, let's do it for photography. Let's do it for X, Y, and Z. Or let's create little engagement events, right? So, hey, March Madness. Anyone want to join? Pick 3 teams. Boom. Or Pride. Okay, here's what we're going to do. And opt in if you want to. So we're seeing more and more of these informal opportunities, people to connect, and you can get more information. And then the technology. So it's changed. Virtual events and the digitization of all of these things so it reaches more people. Boy, I love meeting people's moms. It's like reading instruction manual as to why they're nuts. All right, so what are we seeing? These are the growing predictors of job satisfaction. So we do a lot of work with big consultancies, EY, Accenture, Boston Consulting Group, et cetera. And we meet with their human capital teams. This is what we're seeing, the growing predictors of job satisfaction. Not surprisingly, flexibility, right? Belief in the company, but the recognition, sense of belonging is going up 30% over the last 3 years. Then responsibility, opportunity for growth. So what's the new age checklist? In general, comp's always up there, right? That gets you in the door. But then it's about culture. And legit culture. You can't fake culture. You can't go buy a bunch of apps and wellness programs, because go look at your Glassdoor reviews. Go to your Indeed reviews. Okay, so you want to monitor how we're doing, that's the way to do it. Flexibility, purpose, and recognition. Okay, pause for a sec. So what are the nuts and bolts? I got back this satisfaction survey. It says, hey, listen, I need more sense of belonging. I want more sense of belonging. I want more recognition, et cetera. What are ways we're doing that? Here's what we're seeing. Number one, the themes are more frequent and more personal. What does that mean? Service markers. So what does that mean? Hey, You have warehouse folks. At 30 days, they pass their tests. They're out on their own. That's a certificate. That gets broadcast to the whole team. That's on their app. Everyone can say, hey, great job. 90 days. Absenteeism, attendance. You think all these great things that we can be recognizing, that's what we're seeing more often. The birthdays, the anniversaries, digitized, and they go out. Learning and development, groups and committees, and then contests. And the contests aren't always about sales and revenue. The contest could be, hey, X amount of customers serviced. But we're just seeing a great amount of more ways to recognize, right? And likewise, we're seeing more ways for peers to join in on that fun. When you celebrate, they're going to jump in. So that's what we're seeing in the appreciation category. Engagement, we got Lasso, good old handwritten note. It's gold. In the engagement area, what we're seeing is setting up more opportunities for engagement, right? So yeah, we got back the survey. I want to spend more time with my colleagues. They're remote or they're different shifts. How do we do that? We just provide some good opportunities each and every month. Diversity, inclusion, employee groups, the volunteering, the charity involvement. But once a month, for a lot of our mid-market customers, we're just creating, hey, here's what we're seeing is working elsewhere. Why don't you create this engagement this month? Or this is working with your community over here. Let's double down on that. That's what we're saying. Sports, holidays, you get it. But we're offering more opportunities for people to get engaged or to raise their hand or to get involved. And we really have to work intentionally at that. And that's what we're doing. Okay, let's talk rewards for a second. Quickly, rewards, are they worth it? And we heard earlier from today, hey, the old school rewards, you've been here a year, congrats, here's your mug and here's your $10 gift certificate. Thank you. Doesn't do a heck of a lot for my well-being, my satisfaction with my job. What we're seeing is, hey, those physical trophies, plaques, et cetera, it's getting replaced. And what do employees want? We learned from those informal surveys. I want some options. Yeah, I love rewards. If you're not going to give me more comp, right? The rewards, I like them, sure. Let's have more rewards, but let's make it flexible. So what does that mean? It means that I can go hit my little app and I can go over and I have 10,000 different gift certificates I can cash in for. Some of those gift certificates are going to be Amazon and Walmart, et cetera, and it's by my location. So here in the city, there's 2 or 3 restaurants, et cetera, but it's experiences, right? So I can have lots of fun experiences. It can be cooking from home, or it can be all these neat things that I can save up points for. Or if we're on front line and we're on shifts or supply chain, that could be a half day off. That could be coffee with an executive. But there's an option associated with those flexible rewards. That's what we're seeing. And then we have the wellness points. We see online team building, and we've got the online perks and benefits. Do rewards make sense? Yes. There's about a 3x, depending on what stats you're looking at. Rewards do matter. They're 3x on just appreciation. Depends on what they are, right? So go back, find out what our employees want, actually want, and then let's go implement. Okay, we heard this right up front. Taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse, isn't it? If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. Okay, so how do we wrap this up? We get executive buy-in. Most of what we do are creating metrics so that people want to use our platform, and we're trying to show how quickly we'll be able to actually affect retention, right? Actually affect employee satisfaction. That's what we do all the time. We do not have enough time to go through by industry, by size of company, by government and talk to you, but we do a lot of that and happy to share any of our information, just generally. So we have a booth here, you can send a note to us, and we can share by industry what we're seeing and by size of company, just some general principles. But get exec buy-in. And if you don't have exec buy-in, or you kind of have exec buy-in, we can bolster the case for that. Next is train your managers, encourage employee feedback. That's a whole nother hour, but you get it. And then what we can do, keep things fresh and seek that feedback. So we're always coming back, and we're changing things up. It's not the same engagement event. It's a new one. Or we're stealing from like company over here. We're making it fresh. And if you do that, you see that hop on quickly. Okay, so what's the ultimate goal here? Engagement is a force multiplier, right? Engagement leads to productivity. Engagement leads to happier employees, more human connection, less turnover, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the antithesis? We saw the crisis. So what do we have? There's some sunshine out there. So what happens with engaged employees? This is from local Vertex Ventures here in the Bay Area. 17% more productivity, 20% more sales, 41% lower absenteeism, even with shift workers. So we got 21% more profitability. So why aren't we spending more time on retention and engagement? We should be. That's the bottom line. So we'll wrap up with this. To win the marketplace, you must first win the workplace. And I just want to leave you with, because of the craziness of where we are today, the great news is now is the time. Use this. We are all preaching to the choir on engagement, right? But now is the time we can go make the case with the numbers to go make some action happen. And with that, appreciate your time and swing on by. Thanks.